evening and thank you for staying with us right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. This is World News. My name is Esther Mwachuku and here are the top stories. President Tinubu swears in Abbas as sole administrator of Rivers State. PDP governors clamp down on President Tinubu, disclose suspension of Fubara as unstatemently, biased, divisive. Fubara asked for it. APC defends Tinubu's state of emergency in Rivers State. Court backtracks, upholds Senate suspension of Natasha Akpoti. Meanwhile, protesters shut down Ondo governor's office over killing of another 5 farmers by herdsmen in Osun State. And also, finally, we also have NNPC refutes claims of explosion at Port Harcourt refinery. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The news begins with this very development where we have President Bola Ahmed Tinubu officially swearing in Vice Admiral Iboketa Abbas as the sole administrator of Rivers State following the declaration of a state of emergency in the state. VOP News confirms the appointment was made after a brief meeting between the president and Abbas this afternoon. Abbas, who served as Chief of Naval Staff from 2015 to 2021, was appointed by President Tinubu in a nationwide address on Tuesday evening. The president's decision to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State was based on Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, citing the ongoing political instability and the need for decisive action to address the situation. In his address, President Tinubu suspended Governor Sim Fubara, Deputy Governor Ngozi Udu, and all members of the Rivers State House of Assembly for an initial 6-month period. This drastic measure was taken in response to the escalating political crisis in the state, which had crippled governance and led to growing concerns over law and order. Meanwhile, in reaction, the PDP Governors Forum have eventually strongly condemned President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, describing the move as unstatesmanlike, biased and divisive. President Tinubu, as you do know, on Tuesday declared a state of emergency in Rivers State. As part of emergency measures, President Tinubu nominated retired Vice Admiral Ibokete Abbas as administrator to take charge of the state of affairs. However, in a statement released today, the forum led by Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed expressed grave concerns over the political situation in Rivers, which it believes has been exacerbated by Tinubu's actions. The forum particularly criticized Tinubu's silence regarding the involvement of Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Nyesom Wike in the crisis. The governors argued that Wike's role in the situation had become a law unto itself due to the president's passivity and enabling behavior. The PDP Governors Forum expressed their solidarity with Governor Fubara and the people of Rivers State, criticizing the suspension of democratic rule as a dangerous and a regressive one, the one that such moves and actions would endanger Nigeria's democracy, exacerbate existing political crisis, and destabilize the nation's economy and security. Meanwhile, in a very recent development, the APC too has reacted in the nomination of Ibot Eket Abbas. The All Progressives Congress supported the president's decision to declare the state of emergency in Rivers State. The nation's ruling party emphasized that Fubara is facing the consequences of his actions since taking office. In a statement released today, the APC's National Publicity Secretary Felix Smoker criticized Fubara for undermining democracy in the state. He pointed to the governor's dismantling of the Rivers State House of Assembly and his governance without legislative oversight as factors that had made the state unmanageable. Moka contended that effective governance relies on the collaboration of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, highlighting Fubara's actions have left the states in a state of constitutional uncertainty. Moving on, in a very recent development, the Federal High Court in Abuja has set aside its earlier order nullifying the Senate's suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Justice Obiora Iwatu ruled in favor of the Senate's application, reversing the court's March 4 ruling, which had declared any actions taken against Natasha during the pendency of the suit null and void. Initially, Justice Egwato had granted Natasha's 5 reliefs, including an order that made any Senate actions against her ineffective. However, the ruling was reversed after the Senate's legal team challenged the decision. Senator Akpoti Uduaghan had sued the Clerk of the National Assembly, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, and Senator Neda Imasum, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Code of Conduct. In her suit, she sought an interim injunction to restrain the Senate from investigating her alleged misconduct during the February 20 plenary, which led to her suspension. The Senate, represented by lawyer Chiko Solu Ojukwu, a senior advocate of Nigeria, contested the court's order, arguing that the ruling was vague, went beyond the court's jurisdiction, and could potentially disrupt the Senate's legislative duties, violating the separation of powers principle. Ojukwu contended that enforcing the order would lead to a constitutional crisis. Other defense lawyers include Charles Yola for the Clerk of the National Assembly, Kainde Ogunwumiju for Akpabio, and Ume Kalu for Imason. Now, in a very dastardly development, angry protesters have shot the governor's office at Alagbaka, the state capital, over the killing of another 5 farmers by armed headsmen at Aboyibo in Akure North local government area of Ondo State. Also, VOP News gathered that the deceased were shot dead in another invasion by the hoodlums in the early hours of Wednesday. Not pleased by the disposition of the state government to the incessant killings, the angry protesters stormed the governor's office to display the bodies of the casualties of the invasion. Commuters and motorists in Akure Owo Road were stranded as protesters assembled in Ogbese, where they barricaded the road in protest. You recall that armed headsmen had about a fortnight ago killed 20 farmers in 4 farm settlements in the same local government. Meanwhile, the Port Harcourt, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has denied claims of an explosion at the Port Harcourt Refining Company in Rivers State, dismissing the reports as misleading. In a statement released, the NNPC's Chief Corporate Communications Officer, Olufemi Shoneye, clarified that the incident in question was a flare event which had been promptly managed. The company clarified that what occurred was a flare incident which has been fully contained. There is no danger or health hazard to staff, the surrounding communities, or the environment. Meanwhile, another explosion was reported at an oil facility in the Ogba Egbema Ndoni local government area of Rivers State, occurring just hours after a previous fire outbreak. An anonymous local source disclosed very recently that the incident took place early on Tuesday morning at a manifold connecting Federal line in the Okwariwa area of Onelga. According to the source, residents awoke to find a massive fire engulfing the facility, which is situated at a considerable distance from residential areas. Right now, I actually have joining me via the telephone Dr. Dimiten Courier. He is also a legal practitioner. He's currently in Rivers State. He'll be giving us a bye-bye explanation of what is currently ongoing in the state now that we have a naval administrator being in charge of the state, how the residents are faring, what the political situation is like there, what kind of disparity the situation has caused, and the political state of affairs in the Rivers. Good evening, and thank you for joining me today. I sincerely do appreciate you taking your time to give us details of this development. How are you? Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you very much. How are you this evening?
I'm very fine, thank God.
Thank you very much. You're currently in Rivers State, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me details of what exactly is the environment there, how the atmosphere is like, what the political situation is, how businesses are ongoing, exactly what is going on in the state?
Businesses are ongoing. There is no tension except the governor was seen out of the government house. But as at 12:30 p.m. this afternoon, the sole administrator appointed by the current president was here to arrive Rivers. But there were 2 military tankers waiting in front of government house to receive him.
Navy tankers?
So I don't military tankers.
Military tankers. All right. Can you explain to me what exactly made the situation devolve to this point? How it feels like some certain quarters feel one individual wants the soul and fabric of Rivers State. Others believe that there was an agreement between Fubara and Nyesom Wike before he was chosen to represent the PDP in 2023 and he emerged as the governor. What happened that Fubara reneged, and how come Wike took it upon himself to ensure that there will be political instability in the state until he gets his whims and caprices? Others really believe that they don't understand the kind of influence Wike has over the president, and that the president's action yesterday evening was so drastic without calling out Wike in causing the tension in the state. Can you help us clarify all of this?
Okay, now let me quickly take on the agreement, whatever agreement between Wike and Sim. I don't know the agreement, if they had any agreement. Maybe they had. But is it legal? Is it constitutional? That two people should have an agreement on how the state resources will be diverted into private individuals' pocket. Is it a legal agreement? So let's forget about that agreement. It's not, if they had an agreement, it's not a valid agreement. Now, you asked how things degenerated before it got to this level. Now, this problem started in October 2023 when the governor started asking questions. Because while, you remember, between 2021 to 2022, he was Accountant General of the state.
Okay.
The president was Accountant General of the state. So now, before he resigned and contested as governor, while Wike was governor, our IGRO, what Wike was declared was between 10 billion to 12 billion every month. Now, when Alaye Fubara became governor, it suddenly reduced to 6 billion. The man started asking questions. What is happening? I just took over governance. How did it drop from 10 to 12 billion to 6 billion? The man started asking questions. He was not getting the answers he needed. So he set up a panel to probe into it, and that was the problem.
Go ahead.
He looked for. So from that moment, the FCT minister directed that the man should be impeached. They attempted impeaching the governor, but well, we don't know what happened. The old assembly complex there was an explosion.
Yes.
So major part of the building was damaged. While the governor was on his way to see for himself if what he heard is true, the police attacked him with pressure water.
Yes, we saw that.
Yes. So now that's why I started. Now they all went to court, but when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sued for truth, they all went to Aso Rock, and based on that, the governor kindly withdrew his applications before the federal high court. That was the mistake he made, believing that they were genuinely negotiating. They are genuinely settling their differences.
Yes. Now,
based on his withdrawal, the judge made a pronouncement that Fubara should go and present the 2024 budget before the Amewule-led House of Assembly.
Yeah.
But when the issues lingered, the governor said, I cannot present these people, they have defected. They swore an affidavit before a federal high court. There are video clips of when they publicly defected, when they were received at Polo Club by Okosto Nokosha. And today they are saying that they did not defect. Some people even argue that until their names are entered on the APC register before they can be called members. But that is an invalid argument, because the entering of their name on the register of APC is a process. Understand? If you are already a member, what more do you need? If someone has sworn to an affidavit that I am no longer a member of the PDP, I'm not a member of the APC. Now, that was how this problem started. Now, recently, the Supreme Court gave a questionable verdict that has engendered public scrutiny. Senior lawyers are not happy, even non-lawyers question the judgment. Well, let's leave that. Now, from the date they had that judgment, from 28th of February, I think on a Friday, they had that judgment. It is one problem after the other. It's like they now have an authority to challenge. The governor said, okay, he wants to have a certified true copy of the judgment and study it before you know what to do. He wrote to them they claim not to they saw his letter on social media.
On social media, yes.
That it was not, but he also saw the ultimatum they gave to him on social media. Now, when the governor finally received a copy of the certified proof of the judgment, of the Supreme Court judgment, he wrote to them that through his secretary of the state, that he wants to have a meeting with them in his office. Let them focus on the modalities to execute the Supreme Court judgment. They refused to come on that meeting. That his letter of invitation was on social media. I had to really get to them because they will evade the service. Now the governor was it last week? Before last week, he wrote to them that he wants to present this budget. He went there last week. He was locked out of their service quarters.
We saw that. We saw all of that.
Yes. He could not present the budget. He again wrote to them that he wants to present the budget today, being 19th of March. Today, Wednesday. Still seeking them to help him execute the Supreme Court judgment. They are not ready. In fact, they are joined. They took a recess and gave no date of resumption. That is the further notice. Now, while that is on, last week Saturday, the FCT minister, the FCT minister escalated a John nation. He said they just are minorities of the minorities and said a lot of unthinkable things against
we heard all of that. The issue is this. I remember when you said Nyesom Wike was to come into Rivers State and there was a reception for him. You said that one of the aides actually suggested that he shouldn't come because of the tension in the state, because he just made a statement calling the Ijaws a minority. Now, you said that he called the person a coward and said that nothing was going to happen.
The person who organized that event, that reception, grand reception at Abalama, I had an information Saturday morning. Someone close to him gave her the information. And that the man called the FCT minister that please let's postpone this event until tension.
And the FCT minister declined.
Yes, he said no, never. It must hold. Nothing must hold. That if it does not hold, I know that you are a coward. And so the young man had to agree. They brought in military. They brought in bad boys. Now, look what they were trying to do, what Wike was trying to achieve by that. He felt that the Calabaris will react, will attack him because he has abused the Jaws within that same week. But because he did not get, because he was looking for an opportunity to ask Tinubu to declare a state of emergency, he did not get it. And that's why, surprisingly, on Monday, it was alleged that there was a pipeline vandalized at Bodo.
Yes. But would you blame the administration for thinking that it was the fault of those persons supporting Fubara? Because those militants came and gave an ultimatum and said if there is any impeachment proceeding whatsoever, any commencement of an impeachment proceeding, they will start bombing the oil installations and pipelines. And we saw one of the installations that they took off, I think 2 or 3 days ago, very early in the morning. While the president was doing his broadcast yesterday, another one took place, So, that was obviously, that was the president's reason for coming on to address and say a state of emergency. The question now is this. What is Asari Dokubo doing? What are the elders of the Ijaws or the Bielsa, the River State, elder forum? What are they doing about this current development beyond saying that they do not support the president declaring the state of emergency? Asari Dokubo said he has men, he has boys. These men, he conscripted them to the southeast to help fight IPOB and ESN. So if he has such an armory, such a whatever at his disposal, what happened now? What exactly is he doing? What is his negotiation with the FG? How is he reacting to this ordeal with the federal government?
Recently, I've not heard anything from him, but as at last week, Thursday, he withdrew his Amama soldiers from the Emo Kalabari Road because he had a report that the event we came for at Abalama, and they will attack themselves and blame it on him. So to avoid that, he withdrew his security from the road to Thursday midnight. Now, Alajasari is just a private individual.
Are you sure?
He's just a private. Yes, he's just
so
a
what
private,
gives him the audacity to conscript men to the southeast to fight IPOB and ESN?
He has a license. Even in the US, they are private contractors, security contractors.
Okay.
He's a private contractor. He's been licensed by the federal government. But even if he has boys that doubles the number of the Nigerian military, he cannot fight he cannot take laws into his hands. You understand?
All right.
In fact, he has been suing for peace. He has been suing for peace. If not for his effort, do you know what would have happened at Abalama? And that was what Wike was looking for, so that they have the reason to declare a state of emergency, because they realized that impeaching the governor is not possible, it's not feasible, because they need his chief judge to be on their side, and the chief judge is not ready to dance to their music. You cannot impeach the governor without the chief judge's agreement.
Yes, obviously.
So now, the declaration of a state of emergency was the next option. They were looking for every slightest opportunity to accomplish that. They couldn't get it. And now when there was a vandalization of a pipeline at border, Bukana local government.
Dr. Dumote, let's look at a situation like this. Now that there is a state of emergency declared, now that we now have the fact that the general has moved in, do we see the people of Rivers cooperating with the sole administrator? Do we see the people of Rivers cooperating with the sole administrator? Because if you go on social media, they are saying, "Oh, you guys are quiet. You guys haven't said anything. You guys haven't tried to seek the presence of the president." And the fact that the governor of the state has left the state right now, is it possible that he'll be recalled to resume his responsibility as the democratically elected governor of the state before the 6 months expires?
Yes, it is possible. The president has tomorrow as the deadline to secure or obtain the National Assembly's approval.
Okay.
Because constitutionally, when you declare a state of emergency, in fact, the process is even irregular. There's procedural irregularity.
But the president said he went through the process. You remember in the security meeting, the Senate president was with him. Although the Senate today, there was an argument.
Have you seen an instrument published in the Gazette of the Government of the Federation? Have you seen such an instrument? It is not by brokers. Section 305, sub 1 of the Constitution is very clear on that. It must be by. When you read section 305, sub 1 and 2, you realize that it must be by publication of an instrument in the Gazette of the Government of the Federation. Then you immediately transmit it to the National Assembly, that is the President of the Senate and Speaker of the House of Reps. Now, if they are in section, within 2 days, they must convey and approve or disapprove. If they are not in session, then it will take 10 days. Within 10 days. Now, in this case, I have not heard of any publication of an instrument in the Gazette of the Government of the Federation. It was simply by way of brokers. It is a wrong process.
Okay. All right.
What he did is not constitutional. That aside, what most offensive is that he suspended a democratically elected governor and members of the state house of assembly. He does not have such power.
Okay.
I don't even understand.
I understand. I wanted you to give me. I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you at 7 p.m. or past 7 thereabout. We're going to continue this conversation because I want to know the behind the scenes issue, because you're there, you understand the political shenanigan ongoing in there. I need you to tell us precisely how this conspiracy started and what exactly is about the state that this fight is all about. And then the question is, what has happened to the president that he seems to almost do the bidding of the FCT minister? Nobody understands because everybody feels the president has a political sagacity.
Everyone is shocked.
All right.
That the president already come to such conclusion.
Okay.
No, it is not even clear. It's not even established if the vandalization was done by people supporting the governor,
or if
it was if
it was deliberate by some certain persons.
Yes, what if it was just petty criminals?
Okay.
Or if vandalism, pipeline vandalism has been happening in the Niger Delta. It has been happening. What happened has not threatened public order, public safety. It has not warranted a breakdown of public order. In fact, it is not even imminent. So there is no basis for the declaration of a state of emergency.
All right.
What's offensive is that he suspended a democratically elected.
All right, Dr. Dumute Douglas Courier, he is a legal practitioner as well. He also resides in River State. He's a political analyst, so he understands precisely what is going on in Rivers at this point in time. We'll be calling him later, precisely past 7 thereabout, during the evening rush, and he's going to give us his own perspective and precisely the behind-the-scenes conspiracy ongoing. And if indeed the youth of Rivers, what is the next line of action and how do they intend to negotiate with the president? At the end of the day, democracy must prevail. The will of the people too must be represented. All right, to wrap up here again are the top stories. You heard during the world news that President Tinubu has sworn in Ibas as sole administrator of Rivers State. You also heard that the PDP Governors Forum has knocked the president, described his sole administration as unstatemently biased, divisive. Also, Fubara asked for it. The APC defends the president's stance of emergency in Rivers State. Protesters shot Ondo governor's office over killing of another 5 farmers by herdsmen. Court backtracks uphold Senate suspension of Natasha Akpoti. NNPC refutes claims of explosion at Port Harcourt refinery. That's a wrap on the world news at 6. My name is Esther Machko. I'll be seeing you later for the evening rush at 7 p.m. where we'll definitely have Ife Salako, the Lagos Labour Party spokesperson and media representative, right here in the studio for the evening rush. Do kindly stay with us.